Photos are just for family, my mom said as she steered me out of frame and pointed me toward the fold-out chair by the hallway. I just agreed. Dinner passed. Speeches too. Then the waiter came with the bill. $3,200. I just smiled and said, I won't pay for strangers. Try whoever's in the picture. Photos are for family only. That's what my mother said, arm outstretched like she was shooting a dog off the porch. I'd been walking toward the group to get in the shot, but she just turned, pointed to a folding chair in the hallway, and kept smiling for the camera. So I sat down. No one looked twice. Not even my brother, not my sister, not the cousin. They were all pretending was some kind of prodigy. I sat in that hallway chair next to a fake fuss and a coat rack full of jackets, listening to them laugh inside while someone took photos like it was the royal family's Christmas card. I had flown in from San Diego. 2 connections, red-eye flight, no sleep. I paid for the hotel, the rental car, the overpriced dress shoes I bought last minute because the event was black tie optional, which really meant if you're not dressed up, you're not in the photos. The kicker, I wasn't even told. It was for my cousin until I got there. My sister just said, "We're having a family dinner. It's important." The cousin in question, Chase, had completed some kind of online certification. 6 weeks of audio engineering at a place that spelled certificate wrong in the email header. But there they were, passing around a laminated copy like it was a Pulitzer. My uncle gave a speech about overcoming adversity, referring to Chase getting dumped and sleeping on a friend's couch for a month. My aunt wiped away tears like her son had cured cancer. Meanwhile, I hadn't been mentioned once. Not a word about the business I built. Nothing about the years I bailed out my brother's car loans or paid off mom's medical bill when her insurance lapsed. No acknowledgement, no toast, not even a nod. Just that one line. Photos are for family only. Dinner was absurd. Courses I couldn't pronounce. Some of it was molecular gastronomy nonsense that looked like science projects. Champagne so dry it gave me a headache. The cousin had 3 plates and got drunk halfway through. He made a speech about how family is everything and how he owed it all to his people. Everyone clapped. I went to the bathroom just to breathe. Then the bill came. A waiter, polite, overly rehearsed, placed the leather folder gently in front of me. My mom smiled at me like we had an agreement. My brother made some joke about me, taking care of it like always. My aunt raised her glass. They were all looking at me, just assuming. I opened the folder, $3,200. They had ordered caviar, imported truffles, bottles of wine I hadn't even tasted. I looked around the table. Laughter, pride, entitlement. No one even flinched. I closed the folder, handed it back to the waiter, and smiled. I said, "I'm not paying for strangers. Try the one in the photo." For a few seconds, nothing moved. Forks froze. Conversations cut off mid-word. The waiter blinked like he wasn't sure if he'd heard me right. My mom's mouth opened, then shut. My brother stared. Chase tried to laugh, but coughed instead. Then came the backlash. My sister leaned across the table and hissed something about embarrassment. My aunt said I was ruining a moment that wasn't even about me. My mom stood up and demanded I explain myself. I didn't. I just walked out, got in my rental car, and drove off. I didn't even bother saying goodbye. By the time I got back to the hotel, my phone had 16 missed calls. For voicemails. 2 texts from my brother saying I was done in the family. My sister accused me of emotional blackmail. My mother's message was just one long paragraph about shame and disappointment. That was the last dinner. That was the night I stopped playing along. They thought I was just being dramatic. They didn't know I was done being their safety net, their backup plan, their personal ATM. They thought it was a tantrum, but it wasn't. It was a warning, and it was already too late. The silence lasted 2 weeks. Then came the first blow, a forwarded email from my brother labeled, FYI. It was about a delay on his mortgage payment. Apparently, the automatic withdrawal didn't go through. He hinted without actually asking that it would be great if someone could help out just this month. I deleted it. The next day, my sister called straight to voicemail. Then a message. "Hey, I know things got weird, but Mom's birthday is coming up. We're planning something small. We're splitting the costs evenly. I'll send the breakdown. I didn't respond. They didn't get it yet. Not really. They thought I was cooling off, playing hard to get. They'd seen me annoyed before, even distant. But I always came around. I always paid. I always showed up until now. A week later, my mom called. I let it ring. Then she sent a message. Not an apology, not even an acknowledgement. Just a list of tasks. She needed help renewing her registration, filing something for her taxes, checking in on a weird charge from her insurance. She signed it off with, "Love you. Thanks in advance." I didn't answer. 3 days later, I got a text from Chase. "Bro, is it true you're ghosting the whole family over dinner?" LOL. That's cold, man. That was the one that did it. Cold. I paid his rent for 2 months last year. Bought him a laptop when he couldn't finish his online course, and now I was cold. So, I started pulling things back quietly. My mom's phone plan, I had been paying it for years. I took her off my account. My brother's car insurance Ken led. I had no legal obligation to keep it, and I made sure he had just enough time to figure it out before renewal. My sister's backup Dropbox folder, the one where she stored her writing projects, deleted. She never once paid for her half. Each little thread I pulled made more noise than the last. My mom left a voicemail crying. My brother texted me some long message about loyalty and being a real man. My sister emailed me an essay-length guilt trip, but none of them said sorry. None of them asked what was really going on. They just wanted their services back. So I waited. I watched. And then I took the next step. My Uncle Darren, the only one I actually respected, called to ask if everything was all right. I told him the truth. All of it. The money, the dismissal, the hallway chair, the bill. He stayed quiet for a while. Then he just said, "Damn, you've been carrying them for years." Exactly. That week, I pulled the plug on Chase's new podcast hosting. He'd been using my credit card. He swore it was just for setup. I changed the password, shut it down. The next day, he posted some story about technical issues. They started to feel it. Not all at once, but in ripples. Little inconveniences that added up. And then one night, my mom finally called again. This time, she said, "We need to talk." I thought, maybe this was the moment. Maybe they'd finally see it. Maybe they'd realize what they'd been doing. But instead, she said, "Your behavior is hurting the family." No apology, no reflection, just blame. That was when I knew they weren't going to change. But I was. And the next part of the plan was already in motion. They always used the word family like it meant immunity. Like being related was supposed to cover every insult, every manipulation, every unspoken debt they piled on me for years. But I knew better now. I knew exactly what family meant to them. It meant obligation, control, free labor, a wallet that didn't talk back. They didn't realize I'd been preparing for this break long before the dinner. Quietly, patiently, like someone packing bags before a storm. I had just never followed through until now. First, I dealt with the trust. My father set it up before he passed. Modest funds, just enough to make a difference if used right. He put me in charge, and I'd managed it like he asked. My siblings had no idea how it worked. They just waited for the quarterly deposits like it was Christmas. When I went through the statements, I saw that Chase had been having my mom direct her portion into his own account. He said he'd pay it back. Of course, he did. He always said that. I met with the estate attorney, explained everything. Legally, I had the right to dissolve the trust and claim my share. So I did. Transferred my part into an account they couldn't touch. Sent the official notice to the rest. The emails came flying in within hours. My brother tried calling during a meeting 5 times in a row. My sister left a voicemail crying. My mom sent a Facebook post tagging me with a caption about betrayal and grief, like I'd stolen something sacred. I didn't answer. I didn't care. Then came the duplex. A while back, I'd bought a small property in Oregon. Cheap, ugly, but full of potential. I fixed it up slowly over weekends and holidays. Turned it into something livable. Rented out the top unit. Let my mom and sister stay in the bottom half for free when things got tough. That was 3 years ago. I paid for repairs. I covered utilities. I even sent grocery deliveries. They never said thank you. Not once. When the last inspection came around, I walked through the place and found wine stains on the floor, mold in the bathroom, holes in the drywall. My sister said they'd been meaning to tell me about it. My mom said it's still better than it was when you bought it. I'd had enough. I called my lawyer and drafted a termination notice. They had 60 days to move out. No extension, no exceptions. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. My sister called screaming. I let it go to voicemail. My mom left one of those long, breathy messages that start calm and spiral into guilt trips. You're punishing us for the past. You're choosing money over love. You're acting like a stranger. No, I was acting like someone who had finally woken up. They didn't even try to understand. Didn't ask why I was cutting ties. Didn't acknowledge the years of silent sacrifices. They acted like victims. Like they were the ones betrayed. Like I owed them another chance. 2 days after the letter, my brother posted on Facebook about family snakes and fake loyalty. My cousin liked the post. My aunt commented something about karma. None of them knew what was coming next because I wasn't done yet. I started pulling back all my support. The subscriptions, the online services, the auto payments they forgot I was covering, all gone. I sold the shared streaming accounts, canceled the backup drives, closed the travel rewards account my brother used for his weekend trips with girlfriends he never introduced to us. Every convenience they had leaned on, every shortcut they took because they assumed I'd always be there, it disappeared. They panicked and still not one apology. They blamed me, said I was being dramatic, that I was overreacting, that family fights, it's normal, that I was just tired. I needed time. They didn't understand that this wasn't a tantrum. It was closure. And in 2 months, when the locks changed on that duplex and they were standing on the sidewalk holding boxes they didn't pay for, maybe they'd finally get it. Or maybe they'd never get it. Either way, I was done. They moved out 3 days before the deadline. Not out of respect. They were just scared of legal trouble. My mom left a note in the kitchen. You're not who I raised. I didn't even keep it. Just tossed it with the rest of the junk they left behind. Plates with hairline cracks, stained sofa cushions, a blender that smelled like burnt plastic. I cleaned the place myself. I wanted to see it for what it was without them in it. The silence was different now. It wasn't lonely. It was clear. For the first time in years, I didn't know anyone anything. I didn't hear from them for a while after that. A few scatter texts. One from my sister asking if I was seeing a therapist. One from my brother saying I was heading toward total isolation. I blocked both. 3 months later, I hit a rough patch. It wasn't financial. It was a legal issue. An old business partner came after me with a lawsuit over a patent design he claimed I had stolen. Completely false, but he was loud about it. Filed in a public court. Made some noise online. The news reached the family faster than it reached me. My brother posted a not-so-subtle status. What goes around comes around. My cousin commented with a laughing emoji. My aunt sent me a text saying, "You're learning now, aren't you?" They were giddy, actually thrilled that I was struggling. For a minute, I thought maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe they were just trying to defend themselves. But that illusion didn't last. Not when my mom replied to the news by texting. Karma always finds its way. Maybe next time you'll think before hurting your blood. That hit differently. Even then, I didn't ask them for help. I hired a better attorney. Quiet, efficient, expensive. We countersued, filed documentation, handled everything cleanly. No media, no noise, and then I won. The court ruled in my favor and awarded damages. I came out of it not just whole, I came out wealthier. My attorney set up a trust for my future ventures. A tech company I'd been incubating got a fresh injection of capital. Within 5 weeks, I landed a government contract. My financials tripled. The week the case closed, I got an email from my mom. Subject line, "We miss you. Can we talk?" Then a follow-up from my sister trying to joke. "Guess we overreacted. LOL. We're dramatic sometimes. Let's reset." My brother sent a photo of the 3 of them smiling in a diner booth. Caption, "Still got a seat for you." I didn't reply. Instead, I sent one final notice to the family group chat. The one they assumed I'd forgotten was still active. House on Jefferson Lane is now officially under renovation. All keys have been changed. Any mails sent there will be returned. There are no more favors. No more safety nets. No more second chances. I've moved on. You should too. They knew what that meant. The Jefferson Lane house was my first home purchase. Technically, it was still the family house where birthdays happened, where we watched VHS tapes on weekends, where my dad's tools were still locked in the shed. My mom lived there once. My brother moved in after college. My sister used the guest room when her marriage ended. But I owned it. They cried about it being symbolic, about me erasing history, about being heartless. What they didn't say, not once, was sorry. Not for the chair in the hallway. Not for the bill they expected me to cover. Not for cheering when I stumbled. Not for turning on me the second I stopped feeding the machine. They never said sorry. And now they never will. Because this is what happens when you confuse someone's silence for weakness. When you mistake patience for permission. They taught me that without meaning to. And I learned. I hadn't planned to ever see them again. But things don't always go according to plan. It was late fall when I drove past the old community center near my mom's church, the one where we used to host family potlucks. There was a small event going on. Folding tables, cheap lights, people in jackets standing around styrofoam cups. I was on my way to a meeting, but something made me pull over. And that's when I saw her. My aunt, the one who laughed under my brother's post about karma. She was handing out flyers. Her face looked different. Tired. I didn't approach her. I just sat in the car for a minute and watched. Then I left, but it stuck in my mind. Not because I felt guilt. I didn't. But it reminded me of how many years I'd poured into people who had always taken without blinking. People who never lifted a finger when things got hard for me, but lined up when I was winning. That week, my lawyer sent me another request from my mom. They wanted to contest my control over the Jefferson Lane house. Claimed it was bought for the family even though it had always been in my name. My dad left the money to me directly. They had no claim. Still, they tried. It didn't work. We shut it down in less than 72 hours. But it was the principle that got to me. After everything, they were still looking for a way back in. Not to fix things, not to apologize, just to reclaim comfort. The next blow came not from them, but from someone I didn't expect. Uncle Darren, the only one who had my back through the chaos. He showed up one evening at my office. No warning. Just walked in and asked to talk. I let him. He didn't lecture me. He didn't beg. He just told me the truth. They were struggling financially, emotionally, publicly. The lawsuit I had won got some quiet coverage in business circles. People started asking questions about them. The support system they relied on was cracking. They're not going to ask you for help, he said. Too proud. Too bitter. But they need it. I asked him why he was telling me. Because you're not them, and I hope you never become them. Then he left. I thought about it for a while, a few days. I even walked past the Jefferson Lane house one night, lights off, grass overgrown. For a second, I imagined them in there again, pretending nothing happened, pretending we were one happy, twisted family. And then I remembered the folding chair in the hallway, the waiter with the bill, my mother's face when I said I wouldn't pay. They didn't need help. They needed accountability. They needed to know that actions had consequences, even inside families, especially inside families. So I made one last move. I met with my financial advisor and set up a locked trust for emergency use only for any of them. But it wasn't a gift. Came with conditions, not just legally, but personally. If they wanted access, they had to meet with me face to face. All of them. No lawyers, no mediators, no emails. A week passed, then two. Nothing. They couldn't do it. Couldn't swallow it. Couldn't show up. Not if it meant facing what they'd done. So the trust sat there untouched, and I let it because even after everything I gave them one final choice and they made it. The last time they came to my house, they arrived like they thought they were the ones offering forgiveness. It was early December, just after the first snow. I was home alone, nursing a bourbon, looking over some paperwork for a property sale when I got the message. We're outside. No name, just that. Then another. We came to talk. Please. I walked to the window and there they were. My mother in that thick coat she never zipped up properly. My brother pretending to look calm. My sister holding something in her arms. Maybe a box. Maybe some sad symbol of reconciliation. For a second, I thought about not answering. Just letting them stand there in the cold like I had in the hallway that night. But I opened the door. They stepped in like they were still part of this place, like I was just having a bad mood, and they were here to fix it with some warm words and nostalgic references. My mom looked around like she was trying to remember where the family photos used to hang. My sister handed me the box, old photo albums, mostly pictures of us when we were kids, birthday cards I'd written to them, a note from my dad, folded so many times it had creases like a road map. I set it aside without a word. They sat down. I didn't offer drinks. I didn't make small talk. I waited for them to say what they came to say. It took them 10 minutes to even begin. My brother said they'd been thinking, that they realized things got out of hand, that everyone made mistakes, that this, and he gestured around the room like it was a battlefield, had gone on too long. My sister added something about family always finding its way back. She even teared up. My mom said she didn't want to die without her children speaking to each other, that I was still her son. Still, not once did they say what they needed to. Not once did any of them take real ownership. Not once did they say we used you. We humiliated you. We tried to punish you when you wouldn't keep paying for everything. Everything they said was a script. Apology-shaped but hollow. When they finished, my brother asked, "So what now?" "We go back to normal." I stood up, went to the drawer and came back with 3 envelopes. They each took one. My sister opened hers first. Her hands started shaking halfway through. My mom refused to open it. My brother just stared at the page, silent. Inside was a letter, simple and clear. It told them this was the end, that I was done, that they were no longer welcome in my life, my home, my future. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally did. Because I cared enough about myself to walk away. It said I'd sold the Jefferson Lane house, our so-called family home, and put the money into a private foundation in my father's name. One that helped students with no support, no networks, no safety nets. Kids like I used to be. I told them they could keep the past, the memories, the photos, the old stories, but they had no place in my present. And they'd never be part of what came next. My mom cried, quiet, defeated tears. My sister tried to speak but couldn't. My brother said nothing at all. They left without asking for another chance. Maybe they knew it wouldn't come. The next spring, I finalized the sale. The new owners gutted the place, remodeled it, turned the garden into a deck. It didn't look like our house anymore, and that was the point. Uncle Darren kept in touch. A few distant cousins reached out cautiously. I welcomed the ones who came without drama or denial. The ones who never pretended I owed them anything. Life moved on better, fuller, simpler. I invested. I traveled. I built things again. Not just businesses, real friendships, real peace. And every now and then, someone would ask if I had siblings or what my parents were like. I'd say the truth. We're not close anymore. And that was enough. But sometimes when it's late and quiet, I think about that hallway, that folding chair, the laughter from the dining room just out of reach. And I remind myself that I never sat back down. I stood up and I walked away. And it saved my life.